Good evening, and welcome to another enlightening episode of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now here's your pensive and cerebral host, the Voice of Doom. Hello. I'm going to do an episode that's a little more personal and a little more thought-provoking because the madness keeps going on and there's no sense in trying to keep up with it. But I've noticed that my life, has a certain microcosm, and it has nothing to do with foreign affairs or I may make some sort of splash or I may have some influence, but whether or not it happens now or after I'm gone, I don't know. But the microcosm is a manifestation of the macrocosm, and that's the way it is, and I think that's the way it is with everybody. Now, I'm going to try to get a little bit deeper because I'm not going through, great things. I wouldn't say it's bad. I'm very lucky. But, I have always been a pie in the sky. I can always, hope to make more money. And if I can make it the easy way, I'll make it the easy way. Now, if I had a lot of money, I might have been an investor and I might have studied futures and options and technical analysis and things and trying to, make money in the stock market through various, instruments of, finance. And, people do it and they can do it and they can do it even more now because money is very easy to make because money is becoming less and less valuable. And the less it becomes valuable, the easier it will be to make it. So you'll see on your YouTube as you're watching your shows, which I do, because I don't have cable and I don't have broadcast TV. I just have YouTube. That's where I get all my everything. And the reason for that is it's basically free. Now you'll see when you watch these commercials that everybody's got a pie in the sky scheme and they're all making passive income and they're making like $10,000 a week, and that's great. I would love to do that, but that's not in the cards for me. And it's not in the cards for you. And when I say you, I mean if I started making millions of dollars, it would mean that the economy is certainly going to collapse because that's just the way my luck is. So it would be bad for everybody if I got rich. And that's my dilemma, and that's my negativity that I have to overcome. Now, I've mentioned over the last 80 episodes that I'm a Buddhist, and to be a Buddhist does not mean that you have peace of mind, that you sit on a mountaintop chanting and meditating on life. You meditate on life, yeah, and you do chant, but you got to live in the regular world. You don't go traipsing off into the woods and sit by a river like Siddhartha and, become enlightened and then suddenly you have disciples and the whole 9 yards. That's not the way life is. What happens is you got to do human revolution. Now, I'm going to try to explain that concept as best I can without trying to explain the meaning of life in 2 or 3 sentences, which could be done, but it would be my interpretation, and you're not going to accept it until you realize it yourself. Now, human revolution is basically a lay movement. It's a offshoot of true Buddhism, which was expounded by Nichiren Daishonin in 14th century Japan. And I don't know if I've told you that. I haven't gone on with the history of religion, but I will explain it. Buddhism was just like every other religion. It got sullied, it got bifurcated, there was divisions, there was disagreements, and the more disagreements there were, the more they would have more different sects and different denominations of Buddhism, just like Christianity. You know, one group of people think that they're going the wrong way and they're not following the teachings correctly, so they start another movement. And that's just the way it is. Now, the way Buddhism is and the way it could possibly save the world in the long run is that you honor the mystic law of cause and effect, and that the mystic law is like everyone's connected, and you realize that the longer you live and the more you go into your past, you go, yeah, we're all connected and we all have a certain relationship. The relationship of life and its environment, the relationship of one person to the whole world, everyone else. You just never know, but you know there's connections, and everybody can feel it. They've been to places where they feel like they've been there before. They've met people that they feel like they've known them before, and don't tell me you haven't. And if you haven't, you're just not paying attention. You're just living life like just take everything as it comes, and who gives a crap? Don't even think about it. Don't reflect on your life. And that's a wasted life, and that's a life where you'll have to start all over again. But my son and I are trying to overcome our weaknesses and try to overcome the things that are keeping us held back. Now, my oldest son is a good kid, and he tries his best, but he's high-functioning autistic, and he lives in a different world. His thought process is not the same as everybody else. And maybe everybody has a different thought process, but his is, his mind is not open to expansion. He doesn't want to reflect too much. He wants to just live, get gratification immediately. And therefore, after the COVID fiasco of 2020, he began drinking seriously. Instead of just drinking, a little bit, he drank a lot. And I've always had problems, and I'll admit it. And I wish drinking was my worst problem because it's cheaper. I can go buy a big bottle of whiskey for $25 and be happy for many, many days. But my problem is I am looking for a pie-in-the-sky scheme, and I know that the stock market is just one big casino, so I figure I may as well just go to the casino. Now, gambling is not a good habit because it's expensive, because you lose money and you just keep on dumping money in until you hit something, and then you lose that, and it's insidious. And I'm trying to and I shouldn't do this because everything is personal, but I'm trying to make a certain, what would you call it, deal or a certain agreement with my son that if he can, maybe not stop drinking, but at least come home and I have things here and he can stay home. And if he wants to drink, he can drink, and at least he will circumvent any certain bad things that could happen from drinking and being out in public because, He's not somebody who makes a scene, but he could get pulled over. There's lots of problems with that. So I'm like, well, okay, I want my son to be better than me. I don't want him to be an addict. And even if it's just a addiction that may not ruin your life, but it's just a hindrance. So I'm like, well, I got my own problems. And I like to drink, and I like to smoke marijuana, and I like to do all these things, and I like to gamble because it's in our blood from both sides of the family. My son's grandfather on his mother's side committed suicide because he got so deep into debt. And my family have always been gamers. Not real, lose your house and, jump off a balcony kind of gamers, but just gamers. And we've always looked for that little windfall, that little shot in the arm. And it comes every once in a while, and that's always good. But in the meantime, your moods become erratic. Because even yesterday I decided, okay, I'm not going to go to the casino. And I live in Carson City, so I can go to a casino within 5 minutes of any given point in the town. So I said, okay, I'll just not go to the casino tonight after work. And I didn't. And I felt good the next day because I felt like, well, whatever money I made, I used it towards something, like a bill, like water, like electricity, like insurance. And the bills are piling up, and you get a windfall, and then you can pay a lot off, but then, there's no windfalls for a while. Now, my problem is I'm looking for that windfall. And I know I'd be much happier if I just took my paycheck and took my tips and put them in the bank and paid my bills. But I'm looking for that little extra. So I got to work on that, and that's human revolution. That's what life is all about. You got to overcome your weaknesses. And I'm not saying that people have bad habits and they sin and thou shalt not. I'm saying everybody knows where their weaknesses are. And to overcome them is very difficult. I know that for a fact. Because I'm driving down the street and I just got my paycheck. And it's not the kind of paycheck that's like a big paycheck. It's like I make a small paycheck every week and then I make tips. So I have to kind of husband my finances. Especially when things are the way they are now, where I kind of have to pay all the bills for now. And I feel so much better if I just go home and don't try to risk any money, and I don't win any money, but I don't lose any. And I've got to try to kind of I got to have, discipline, and I don't have it. That's one of my weaknesses. And I know this diatribe is totally personal. It's not interesting to anybody. But it's the macrocosm, it's the microcosm of your life, what you have to struggle through. You got to extrapolate that, and you got to put it out into the big world and look at how the world is, and it's not good. And my life's good, and I'm happy, and I've kind of learned to master my mind. Instead of being depressed because I'm behind in the bills or being depressed because such and such, I realize that I create my own mood, and being depressed about being behind on the bills is not going to make it go away. The only way to make it go away is to make a determination to say, I'm going to get out of this. And then if you go to the casino and you lose, then you're that much more behind, so you better really get with it. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to get through this human revolution it's going to take for the rest of my life. And then the next lifetime, I got to start all over. But I'm preparing for the next life, and I want to, do something that's a little bit, unique, and not just do what I'm doing right now, but do something unique. And so I have to really work on it. And I think everybody should try to do that. I don't know if I said anything. Maybe somebody might have gotten something out of what I just said, but it was just gibberish. It was enlightening, and it should be, but it's not, because everybody has to realize it for themselves. So I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to wake up in the morning, and I'm going to look at the news, and then we're going to start all over again and have another rant about the latest idiocy in the macrocosm. But if you work on the microcosm, which is your own sphere of life and influence, then that will help. It will help in the long run. We may be faced with madness and ridiculous decisions and things that are incomprehensible, but if every person tries to improve, tries to reflect and look at their life and say, what could I do better and how could I help? This world will be better. And I could help with that once I get my act together. So I'm going to try, and I'm going to really not, F around anymore, because I realize I'm much happier if I just get what I get, earn what I earn, and be happy with that. And I'm happy, and I'm learning to master my mind, because I don't care how far behind I am in the bills, because they'll be paid or they won't. And, doesn't mean I have to toss and turn and not sleep. So, I don't know. I didn't say anything. It's human revolution. I will visit this subject because it's very important. And I could ramble on. It's already almost 18 minutes. That's ridiculous. And I'm sure you're bored out of your gourd. But it's a personal thing, and I wanted to interject that between all the madness and chaos and catastrophe and cataclysms that are going on, because they're going to get worse. So just have a little quiet, time to reflect on how I need to improve, and then maybe if everybody else does the same and my son does the same, things will be better. So I'm going to try. And that's my lesson for today. That is my little sermon. So take it for what it's worth. I don't think I said anything, but maybe I did. Somebody might think it's good. Have a good night, and thanks.